Hey guys, it's Miss Collier. I'm going to give a lesson over elapsed time. So this is something that I actually don't remember learning in school. It's kind of just something that I think I figured out on my own. And the way I do it is kind of weird, but there are actually several strategies that you can use that make it a lot easier. And I really wish that I would have known these when I was younger, because I do think that it would have helped me a lot. A lot of people think about elapsed time, and maybe you've already read those questions on your paper and you're just wondering, well, how in the world am I going to do this? So we're going to go over 3 different strategies that you can use to help you solve an elapsed time problem. So first things first, I just want to go back to basics. So I just want you to kind of remember, most of you should have remembered learning about time in 2nd grade, even maybe 1st grade. Just remember that time goes from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then from 12 p.m. back to 12 a.m. So that's just the way the time works. We have 1 through 12 on the clock, and 12 is the top of the hour. So just remember that. Also, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So that's why it's not really good to just add up your time, because if you get a number higher than 60, then you're gonna have to convert that to hours and minutes, and it kind of gets really tricky. So, like I said, we're just going to go over some strategies that make it a lot easier than that. So before we begin, I kind of just want to talk about what elapsed time is. So elapsed time is basically just the distance of time, the amount of time between 2 intervals. So interval is like your start and your end. So the elapsed time problems that you see might ask you how many hours or minutes long a period of time is, or also what time an event started or finished. So they might give you a start time and give you how many hours and minutes it took or lasted, and then you have to figure out your end time. Or it might give you your start and end time, but you have to figure out, well, how many hours and minutes was that? How long did it last? So some of our strategies that we're going to use will make this a lot easier for you. So the first strategy is called T-chart. So this one is super simple. Most of you know what a T-chart is, especially if you remember just making tallies for stuff and things like that. T-charts you're probably really familiar with. It just looks like a big T. So we're going to read this problem, and then I'm going to explain to you how you would do it if you were solving a problem by yourself. So Bob and his brother attended a play at their local community theater. The play started at 7 p.m. and ended at 9:05 p.m. How long was the play? So there's one of those problems that give us a start and end time, but we have to figure out how much time was between those two. So what I'm going to do, I'm kind of going to do my cube strategy, but it's going to be a little bit different with a time problem. So what I'm going to circle is my 7 p.m. and then my 9 p.m. 9:05 p.m. Sorry, 9:05 p.m. My question is, how long was the play? So we have some information in here, but there's still some missing information. So the way that a T-chart works for this problem, we're going to first draw a T-chart. So I already have it on here, but if you were working a problem on your own, you would have to draw a T-chart. You just make a T. So at the top of your T-chart, on the left side, you're just going to put time. So this is where we are going to actually put the times that you would see on a clock. On this side, the right side, you're going to put hours, minutes, because that is where we're going to document how many hours and minutes these times were, how many hours and minutes between those times happened. So over here on the side, I also want you to get into the habit of writing down your start time and your end time. So in this problem, we have both. So our start time was 7 p.m. And remember, if they just give you 7 without any minutes, that means 7 o'clock. So really, you would put 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock p.m. Our end time was 9:05 p.m. So just keep that in mind. If you see just a number without any minutes, that's the top of the hour, so it's just going to be 00. So we have our start time, which is 7, and then our end time, which is 9. So this one is actually super simple because it starts at the top of the hour. So we don't have any minutes to work with, and we don't have to really get to an easier spot to start with, because we already have a really easy spot to start with. So what you're going to do, you're going to put your time right here, 7 o'clock p.m. So that's our time. So we're just gonna think, and we're going to, let's just go hour by hour. So we have 7 for start, and our hour to end is 9. So if you just went 1 hour ahead of 7, that would just be 7 plus 1, because we don't mess with the minutes. We're just going ahead by hour. So 7 plus 1 is 8. So that would be 8 p.m. And like I said, that's only 1 hour apart, because once again, we're not looking at these minutes, we're only looking at the hour. So this would be 1 hour, and we don't have any minutes, so we can just not worry about that. This is 1 hour between these two times. So we look at this time that we have, 8 o'clock p.m., and we realize, well, the end time was 9 o'clock. Even though there might be minutes, we're not looking at the minutes yet. The hour was 9. So to get from 8 to 9, you only have to add 1. So 9 o'clock p.m., that is also 1 hour. So to get from 8 to 9 is 1 hour. So if we look at our end time, our hour is correct. So we're not adding any more hours. Now we have to look at our minutes. Our minutes for our end time is 5 minutes. So all we're gonna do is write 9:05 and then write 0 hours and 5 minutes. I just kind of shorten the word minutes because it's kind of a long word. So 0 hours and 5 minutes. So to get from 9 to 9:05, that was only 5 minutes. So what you do at the very end, once you're done, and once you have gotten your start time and your end time, you're going to add all of these up. So add up. So really, the reason why I put 0 hours here is to make it easier for you so you don't get mixed up and add 1 plus 1 plus 5. Because remember, our hours and minutes have to stay separate. So we're still going to start like we do normally in the ones place, if that's what you want to look at it as. So our ones place would really just be our minutes, because we know that minutes are smaller than hours, and minutes are parts of an hour. So 5 minutes. And then we're going to add our hours. So we have 1 plus 1 plus 0, so really that is 2. So 2 hours and 5 minutes. So that's all you have to do, and that is your answer. So 2 hours and 5 minutes, that is how long the play was. So just remember, when you're doing this, you have to make sure that you have that start time and you have that end time. It has to get all the way from your start to your end. And if it doesn't, then you haven't added all your time together. Have to make sure that you do that. But it's really simple. Just draw your T-chart, write out your start and end, and just split it up easier. Because that way, we're just looking at the hours and minutes separate, and it just makes it a lot easier to handle. So that is one strategy that you can use. The next strategy that I'm going to go over is called Zoom. So this one kind of sounds cool, and really all that you're doing is drawing a big Z, and it's kind of cool to think about, and I'll show you in just a second why it's so cool. So we're going to read this problem, we're going to kind of analyze it, and I'm going to explain to you how to use the Zoom strategy. So the problem says, Southview Elementary has school every day from 8:30 a.m. to 3:25 p.m. How many hours are the students at school each day? So this is another problem very similar to this one. So if you wanted to, you could have used a T-chart, but we're going to practice using a different strategy called Zoom. So once again, I'm going to do my cubes, but it's going to look a little bit different than a normal problem. So they have school every day from 8:30 a.m. to 3:25 p.m. So those are our 2 times. And when you see that little hyphen, which is just like a little dash, that means 2. And time, you just read that as 2. So 8:30 to 3:25. Our question, how many hours are the students at school each day? So once again, we're trying to figure out how much time happened between those 2 intervals, the start and the end. So on a Z, on the Zoom, when you make your Z, you're going to put your start at the top, at the beginning of the Z, and you're going to put your end at the very bottom. So our start time was 8:30, and our end time was 3:25. 25. And I'm just going to put AM and PM. So we have our start, which is 8:30 a.m. So what you're going to do when you're given a time like this, where it's not the top of the hour, I want you to think that you're always trying to get to the top of the hour first, or you're trying to get to where it's o'clock, to where it's even, because that makes it a lot easier to look at and to manage. So we have 8:30 a.m. So we're going to think, well, how many hours or minutes would it take to get from 8:30 to the next hour, to the top of the hour, which would be 9. So how long would it take to get from 8:30 to 9? Well, that would only be 30 minutes. We know that 60 minutes are in an hour, so 30 plus 30 is 60. Once we added 30 minutes, we would get to 9 o'clock. So in between 8:30 and 9, that is 30 minutes. So you're going to write right there at the top of your Z, you're going to write how long it took to get from 8:30 to 9, which is 30 minutes. So our next step, really this big part of the Z is going to be your long stretch. So that's probably going to be the greatest amount of hours that you have on your entire drawing. So what we're going to do to make it easier for you, I want you to look. So we're at a very easy number, easy time to work with, the top of the hour, 9 o'clock. So we're going to look at our end time, which is 3:25, and we're going to see, well, what's the hour in the time 3:25? Well, the hour is 3 o'clock. So we know that we're going to have to get to 3 o'clock. There might be some minutes involved, but we're not looking at the minutes yet. We're only moving by hours first. So 9 to 3. So we're trying to see how long does it take to get from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So this is the tricky part. You just have to remember your basics of time, the way that time works. So once you hit 12, you have to start back at 1. So we have 9 to 10, which would be 1, 10 to 11, which would be 2, 11 to 12 is 3, 12 to 1 is 4, 1 to 2 is 5, 2 to 3 is 6. So to get from 9 to 3, that would be 6 hours. Oh, did not mean to put it there. You're going to put it on this long part. Sorry about that. You're going to put it on the long part because this is a visual of how to get from 9 to 3. So really, I honestly, like I said, I didn't learn these strategies, but I do use my fingers for time because it helps me visualize how many hours are passing between each other. How much time is passing between each hour. So I know that to get from 9 to 10, that would be 1 hour, and so then I'll just count up from there. So really, it's perfectly fine if you need to use your fingers, but you get to have something that you can actually see it. You can visualize it instead of trying to do it in your head, because sometimes you can make mistakes that way. So we have gotten from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and that took 6 hours. But we're still not done yet because we have to finish the last part of our Z. So we have 3 o'clock and 3:25. So really now all you have to ask yourself is, how do I get from 3 o'clock to 3:25? Well, that is only 25 minutes because the hour is the same, the minutes different. So to get from 0 to 25, you would have to add 25. So the bottom part of your Z is 25 minutes. So the thing that you have to do now is add up all of these numbers. Add up. So you're going to have to add up your time in the middle. So really, the Z kind of just helps you lay it out and break it up. Once again, that's really all that these strategies are doing, is just breaking it up for you and making it in smaller chunks so it's a lot easier than trying to analyze it all at once. So you're going to add up this time right here in the middle. So I have 6 hours, and I'm going to shorten the word hours. And then I also have 30 minutes and 25 minutes. Well, I know that this is 0 hours, 30 minutes, and also 0 hours, 25 minutes. So same thing that we did right up here. So that's why it's good to start when you only have minutes to put 0 hours in front of it, because that way you're not adding incorrectly and you're not adding your minutes and hours together. For example, 30 plus 6, that would not be correct. So once again, we're going to start over here. Remember, pretend like it's in ones place. Your minutes are smaller than your hours, so we're always going to start with the smallest number, the smallest amount, which would be our minutes. So we have 30 and 25, that is 55, so 55 minutes. And then we have 6 hours plus 0 plus 0. So really that's only 6 hours. So the students are at school for 6 hours and 55 minutes. So that's super simple. That's all you have to do. Remember, the main thing about the Zoom, or really about any strategy to make it easier on you, try to get to the simplest way that you can work the problem, which would be the top of the hour or o'clock, which is when the minutes are 0. So that makes it a lot simpler. So we're going to look at one more strategy, and I know that a lot of people really like this strategy because it helps you visualize the difference in the size of the amounts of time. So as we all know, an hour is larger than minutes. Well, this helps you visualize that. So this strategy is called mountains, hills, and rocks. And it's really similar to just doing a number line, but it gives you a little bit more of a visual. So I'm going to read the problem, and then I'm going to show you how you can use mountain, hills, and rocks. Matthew and his family were at an amusement park riding rides for 5 hours and 14 minutes. They arrived at 10:10 a.m. What time did they leave? Okay, so this problem is just a little bit different than these two. And the reason why it's different is because they give you a start time, which was 10:10 a.m., but they don't give you an end time. All that they give you is how long they were there. So they already give you how long they were there and when they started. So you're trying to figure out when they left, when that time ended. So what time did they leave? They were there for 5 hours and 14 minutes. So, like I said, for mountains, hills, and rocks, it is a lot like a number line. And that's really the first step that you have to do. You have to draw just a blank number line. The thing about mountains, hills, and rocks is you're going to have to remember your key. So I'm going to introduce this key to you and tell you kind of what each symbol means on your number line. So our key for mountains, hills, and rocks, we're going to use little pictures that represent a mountain, a hill, and a rock. So when you see a mountain, or when you draw a mountain is always going to equal 1 hour. So the mountain, just make it look like a mountain, just draw a little triangle, and I kind of put the little snow cap on top just to make it more visual for you. So the hill is just a little circle, kind of a semicircle, and that represents between 5 to 30 minutes. So obviously, if you had a hill of 30 minutes, it would be a little bit bigger than a hill of 5 minutes. But really, it's kind of flexible. You can choose however you want to split it up. So really, that's up to you. So any amount of time from 5 minutes to 30 minutes would be a hill. And a rock is a tiny semicircle, kind of like the hill, but very small, because a rock can only equal 1 minute. So that's kind of when you have a number that isn't counting by tens or fives, and it's not really going to fit in between the 5 and 30 minutes. So then you're going to count by ones, and that would be your rocks. So this is our blank number line, and like I said, they give us our start time, so we're trying to find the end time, or the time that they left. So 10:10 a.m. That is when they started. So that is what I'm going to put first on my number line. So the thing about this is that I want to look at my hours first. So whenever we're looking at hours only, our minutes do not change. So going from 10:10, if I wanted to go 1 hour ahead, I'm only going to change my hour. And this problem's a little different because we don't really even need to change to the top of the hour. You can if you want, but really you don't even need to, because we're just looking for what time that they left. So we don't know that yet. All we know is how long they were there. So to get from 10:10, we know that they were there 5 hours, so we're gonna have to make jumps of 5 hours, but we can only go 1 hour at a time. So 10:10, 1 hour later than 10:10, or after 10:10 would be 11:10. So I'm gonna make a mountain, and then I'm going to write 11:10, because really that's just adding an hour. So this would be 1 hour. So we have 1 hour done, but we still need 4 more because we have 5 in total. So to get from 11:10 to 12:10 would be 1 hour. Remember, I am not looking at the minutes, only looking at the hours. To get from 12:10 to 1:10, remember, once you hit 12, you have to start back at 1. So 12:10 to 1:10 is also an hour. Well, there's 3 hours, so I still need 2 more. So 1 hour, that would be 2:10. And then finally, my 5th hour would be 3:10. So now that I'm at 3:10, I have done all my hours. I have done my 5 hours. So 14 minutes is what I have left. So remember, a hill represents 5 to 30 minutes, and a rock represents 1 minute. So what I'm gonna do, since I know that 14 is not an interval of 5 or 10, I'm going to split up my 14 minutes into 10 and 4. So I would draw a hill of 10 minutes, and that would be 320, because I'm adding minutes, so 10 plus 10 is 20. Then, and I probably should have made my number line a little bit longer. That's okay. So I have 10 minutes. Well, I know that I have 14 minutes left, so 14 minus 10 is 4. I still have 4 minutes that I have to add. And since this is only and a hill is only 5 to 30, I'm gonna have to use a rock instead. So a rock is 1 minute. So really, I would just draw 4 little rocks. And like I said, probably should have made my number line longer, but that's okay. So each one of these is 1 minute. So I'm just gonna put 1M, 1M, and 1M. So really that is 4 minutes. So 320 plus 4 is 324. And we are now, since we went from 12 to 1, that was AM, we are now at PM. So really the time that they left would be 3:24 p.m. And just to be safe, you can always, what I would suggest is that you always add up this time right here and make sure that it is the time that they give you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, which is exactly what we needed. And then we had 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 14. So 10 hours and 14 minutes. So that checks out, and our start time was 10:10. Well, now we know that our end time would be 3:24 p.m. So, like I said, these are a lot simpler than trying to just add it, because sometimes adding doesn't really work that well, especially if you hit a number greater than 60, because like I said, there's only 60 minutes in an hour, and then it gets tricky. So hopefully these strategies will help you learn how to solve elapsed time problems. Personally, I think that the problems that give you a start and end time work better with T-Chart and Zoom, but if you're looking for either a start or end time and they give you how long it was, I would probably use the mountains, hills, and rocks. But really it's up to you however you want to use them. You can use any strategy for any problem regarding elapsed time, and you can get your answer a lot easier. But of course, if you still need help or you still have any questions, you can always just let me know, and I would love to help you or provide you with more practice if that's what you would like as well. So thank you for listening, and I really hope that these strategies help you learn how to solve elapsed time.